Hey everyone, Laura Ronson here. And before I say another word, I need you to stop whatever you are doing and really pay attention to what I'm about to tell you. Because this specific story, is the one that broke me. Not because it's shocking in isolation, but because it proves, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that the corporate exodus from California is no longer a trend. It is no longer a warning. It is no longer something that might happen if things don't change. It is done. It is over. The decision has been made, and the company that just made it has been in California for over 50 years. 50 years! Half a century of tax dollars, half a century of jobs, half a century of roots planted so deep into the California soil that most people assumed they would never leave. And then, in February of 2026, Public Storage announced they were done. Done with Glendale. Done with California. Done with Gavin Newsom. Moving everything to Frisco, Texas. Let that land for just a second. Public Storage, a company born in San Diego in 1972. A company that grew up alongside California's golden era of prosperity, that expanded to operate more than 3,000 facilities across 43 states, that became one of the most recognizable real estate brands in the entire country. Gone. Texas won. California lost. And Governor Gavin Newsom has not said a single word about it. I'm Laura Ronson, and on this channel we cover the economic collapse of America's progressive-run states in real time. Not theories, not political spin, hard facts, corporate filings, and the kind of numbers that the mainstream media is too afraid to put on your screen. Smash that subscribe button right now and hit the bell icon, because what is happening in California right now is a 5-alarm fire that nobody in Sacramento wants you to see. And by the time this video is over, you are going to understand exactly why Public Storage left, who is really to blame, and why this is only the beginning of something far worse. So let's get into it. Let me set the scene for you, because context is everything here, and I want you to feel the full weight of what just happened. Imagine building a company from scratch in California in 1972. You start small. You believe in the state. You believe in the American dream of building something from nothing on California's sun-soaked soil. And it works. Decade after decade, your company grows. You expand across the country. You become a Fortune 500 company. You employ thousands of people. You pay hundreds of millions in taxes to a state that you have called home for your entire existence. Your executives live there. Your leadership team is rooted there. Your corporate identity, your brand, your culture, all of it was built in California. That is the story of Public Storage. Founded in San Diego in 1972, headquartered in Glendale for decades, a company so intertwined with California's business fabric that separating the two seemed almost unthinkable. And for years, California politicians pointed to companies like Public Storage as proof that the state was still a great place to do business. They never called them. They never asked what they needed. They just pointed and said, "Look, they're still here. That must mean we're doing something right." And then, without a single courtesy call to Sacramento, without a press conference or a warning shot, Public Storage filed their announcement. Corporate headquarters relocating to Frisco, Texas, effective immediately. Leadership team transitioning through the spring, and the reason given, finding the right talent and building the team going forward. That's the corporate way of saying what executives say when they don't want to start a political firestorm. But we know the real reason, and we are going to talk about it in detail. Drop a comment right now and tell me, are you surprised, or did you see this coming a mile away? Now here's what the mainstream media will absolutely not tell you, because telling you this would require them to admit that progressive governance has consequences. Public Storage did not wake up one morning and randomly decide to abandon 50 years of history. This was a slow boil. This was the result of years of accumulated pressure that finally reached the breaking point. And the pressure has a very specific source. Let's talk about California's tax burden, because the numbers here are going to make your jaw drop. California's corporate tax rate is 84%. That is already one of the highest in the entire United States. But that is just the beginning. Stack on top of that the state's personal income tax rate, which hits 3% at the top bracket, the highest in the entire nation. Not second highest, not close to the top. Number 1. The highest personal income tax rate in America. For a company like Public Storage, whose executive leadership team earns millions in annual compensation, the difference in take-home pay between staying in California and moving to Texas, where the corporate income tax rate is zero and the personal income tax rate is also zero, is not a rounding error. We're talking about millions of dollars per executive per year, permanently. And there is more. California's regulatory environment has been suffocating businesses for years. Environmental compliance costs that dwarf neighboring states, labor mandates that add complexity and expense to every single operational decision. And here is the detail that should make every California business owner furious. Public Storage, through the California Self-Storage Association, spent significant resources lobbying against a new California Senate bill that mandates rent increase disclosures starting in 2026. They fought it. They argued against it. They said this will hurt our business. Sacramento ignored them completely. The bill passed. And shortly after, Public Storage announced they were moving to Texas. You connect those dots. Now, let me introduce you to someone. Her name is Sandra. That is not her real name, but her story is absolutely real, and it is playing out right now across Glendale, California. Sandra worked in Public Storage's corporate office for 14 years. She was not a C-suite executive. She was not a senior vice president. She was a mid-level marketing manager who showed up every day, did excellent work, earned her promotions, and built her entire life around the assumption that her company was going nowhere. Sandra bought a condo in Burbank, 10 minutes from the Glendale office, because that commute was perfect. Her daughter's in third grade at a school she loves. Her mother lives nearby and helps with childcare 3 days a week. Her husband works for a local contractor whose biggest client is, you guessed it, corporate tenants in the Glendale Business District. Sandra's entire ecosystem, her mortgage, her daughter's school, her childcare arrangement, her husband's income, every single piece of her life was built on one fundamental assumption: that Public Storage was a California company, and California companies stayed in California. And then came the announcement. Leadership team transitioning to Frisco, Texas. Corporate roles either relocating or being restructured. Sandra now faces the same impossible choice that thousands of California workers have faced before her. Pack up your entire life and follow the job to Texas. Or stay in one of the most expensive cities in America and compete for jobs in a market that just lost another major corporate employer. Sandra is 41 years old. She is not a billionaire who can absorb this kind of disruption. She is a real person in a real situation, caused entirely by politicians who never once sat down with her company and asked the most basic question that any government official should ask the businesses that fund their budgets. What do you need to stay? That question was never asked. That answer was never sought. And now Sandra is paying the price for Sacramento's arrogance. But Sandra is not alone, and this is the part of the story that economists understand and politicians refuse to acknowledge. Because when a Fortune 500 company moves its headquarters out of a city, the damage does not stop with that company's employees. It radiates outward in waves that hit every corner of the local economy. Think about the law firms that handled Public Storage's corporate legal work for decades. Think about the accounting firms that manage their finances. Think about the advertising agencies that ran their marketing campaigns, the IT vendors that maintained their systems, the commercial real estate brokers who managed their office leases, the property management companies, the security services, the cleaning crews, the catering companies. The restaurants near their Glendale offices where executives had lunch every single day. Every single one of those businesses just lost a major client. Every single one of those workers just lost a source of income. And none of them are going to show up in the headlines. None of them are going to get a press conference. They are just going to quietly suffer the consequences of a decision made in Sacramento by politicians who never once thought about the ripple effects of their policies. This is what economists call the multiplier effect. And for a company of Public Storage's size, operating thousands of facilities nationally with a corporate headquarters employing hundreds of high-earning professionals, that multiplier is enormous. The direct tax revenue California loses from this move is significant, but the indirect economic damage, the downstream collapse of the entire ecosystem that depended on Public Storage's presence in Glendale, could be 3, 4, even 5 times larger than the headline number. And what is Gavin Newsom's response? Silence. Absolute silence. Because acknowledging this would require him to admit that his policies are directly responsible for driving away a 50-year corporate resident. Here is where it gets even more infuriating, because Public Storage is not alone. Not even close. They are just the latest name on a list that keeps growing longer every single month. Let me run through what has happened to California just in the past few years. Tesla, gone to Texas. Oracle, gone to Texas. Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, gone to Texas. Charles Schwab, gone to Texas. Chevron, gone to Texas. SpaceX, gone to Texas. And now Public Storage, gone to Texas. And now Public Storage, gone to Texas. In-N-Out Burger, one of the most iconic California brands in existence, gone to Tennessee. Wells Fargo's entire wealth management division, a unit that generates $16 billion in annual revenue, gone to Florida. Each one of these departures was met with the same response from Sacramento: denial, minimization, the claim that these are isolated business decisions that do not reflect a broader pattern. But at what point does a pattern become undeniable? At what point do California politicians look at this parade of departures and finally admit the obvious truth? The state's government has made it economically irrational to stay, and businesses, which exist to make rational financial decisions, are acting accordingly. Let's talk about what Texas is actually doing, because this side of the story is the one that should be studied in every business school in America. Texas is not winning by luck. Texas is winning because its state government made a deliberate, strategic, ruthlessly effective decision to compete for corporate headquarters. Governor Greg Abbott and the Texas economic development apparatus are not sitting back and waiting for companies to discover them. They are hunting. They are running targeted campaigns specifically aimed at corporate decision makers in California, New York, and Illinois. They are calling CEOs personally. They are offering white glove relocation assistance, and the numbers back it up in ways that are almost impossible to argue with. Zero corporate income tax, zero personal income tax, a regulatory environment dramatically lighter than California's, energy costs significantly lower, commercial real estate 40 to 60% cheaper than comparable California locations, and a state government that, when a company calls with a concern, actually picks up the phone. That last part sounds almost too simple to matter, but ask any CEO who has tried to navigate California's regulatory apparatus and then compare it to their experience in Texas, and they will tell you that attitude is everything. California treats corporations like problems to be managed. Texas treats them like partners to be celebrated. Since 2020 alone, more than 200 major companies have relocated to Texas. 200. That is not a trend. That is a tidal wave. And it is crashing directly into California's tax base, its job market, and its economic future. Now here is the question that Gavin Newsom absolutely cannot answer publicly without exposing the catastrophic failure of his entire governance philosophy. What is the actual long-term fiscal damage of losing companies like Public Storage? Not just the immediate tax revenue, not just the jobs, but the compounding, cascading, multi-decade damage of watching your corporate base erode year after year. Every major company that leaves California takes its employees with it. Those employees were paying California's 13.3% top income tax rate. They were paying property taxes on California homes. They were spending money at California restaurants, retailers, and service businesses. When they move to Texas, every single one of those dollars follows them. And when corporate headquarters move, the talent pipeline follows too. Young professionals who might have built careers in California instead go to Texas, where the jobs are, where the executives are, where the opportunities are moving. California does not just lose the immediate tax revenue. It loses the entire future economic contribution of those workers, permanently. And with California already staring down a projected budget deficit of between $50 and $70 billion for the coming fiscal year, a reversal from the $97 billion surplus just 4 years ago, every single corporate departure makes that fiscal hole deeper and harder to climb out of. The death spiral is not theoretical. It is happening right now in real time, and nobody in Sacramento has any plan to stop it other than the same tired response they give every time: raise taxes on whoever is left, which pushes more companies to leave. Lather, rinse, repeat. Let me bring this home for everyone watching, because whether you live in California or not, this story matters to you. What we are witnessing in real time is a fundamental and permanent restructuring of where American business happens. For the last 40 years, California dominated. Silicon Valley was the center of the technology universe. Los Angeles was the entertainment capital of the world. San Francisco was the hub of venture capital and innovation. That dominance is crumbling, not slowly, not gradually. It is crumbling at warp speed because the economic pain of staying in California has finally crossed the threshold where no amount of cultural prestige or networking advantage can justify it. Public Storage was founded in California in 1972. It survived recessions, earthquakes, financial crises, and market disruptions. It survived all of those things. But it could not survive 50 years of progressive governance that turned the state into the most expensive, most regulated, most hostile business environment in America. And that should tell you everything you need to know. When a company that has survived everything California has thrown at it for half a century finally says enough, the message is crystal clear. The environment has become so hostile, so expensive, so fundamentally hostile to basic business logic that even 50 years of loyalty and history cannot keep you there anymore. Public storage was not a warning. Caterpillar was a warning. Tesla was a warning. Those warnings were ignored. Public storage is the consequence. And if Sacramento continues to respond with silence and denial, the consequences that come next will be far worse than anything we have seen so far. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'm Laura Ronson. Drop a comment below right now and tell me, which California company do you think leaves next? Hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs to see the truth, and subscribe to this channel because this story is nowhere near over. I'll see you in the next one. Stay informed, stay awake, and never stop asking questions.